All right, we are live. Welcome everyone. Looks like we got 21 people here with us tonight. So thank you for all joining. Um, there is going to be another info session on September 7th. But yeah, this is for the Miscela Affordable Housing Lottery for units that are 50% and 80% AMI. Marketing just started today. The email blast went out earlier to about 10,000 people, and maybe we'll have a couple of people joining us in a little bit. And we might have a couple more people at the next info session. But in any event, thank you for coming. Right off the bat, we would like to. Hopefully, this is legible here, but this is information on how to download the info pack and application in other languages. I'll move it up here, but it is this is the information that we just wanted to share with some of the non-English speaking people, if they are at all on the line, so that they can get the info pack and the application on our website at the highlighted web address right here. They can call us, email us at these numbers, and we can provide language services. And there's also the Summer Viva's contact information here for anybody who needs translation services. We'll share this again in a little bit, but I just wanted to start the info session that way. So we're going to go through a couple things this evening at this information session. Again, taking a step back, my name is Brian. I'm from SCV Housing. We're the affordable housing consultant that was hired by Miscela to help oversee compliance with the City of Somerville's affordable housing program. We will be the point of contact right off the bat for applicants who are applying for the lottery, and we'll be doing the lottery screening and ultimately the program certification for households who are asked to move forward in the process. We'll get to that a little bit later. But we, along with Miscela, Federal Realty, Greystar, and the City of Somerville, we all work together to put this program together to make these units available through this process. So if you have any questions, if you're unfamiliar with these live chats, you can see over here on the right of your screen, you'll see a chat box. We find that the best way for people to ask questions is just by typing something in like this. And you can also join us. You can also ask questions through the conference line. That number is 425-436-6200. And the code for that is 862627. So if you have any questions that you just want to speak, you can just get on the conference line and give a holler. So we are going to just to give a general overview of what this info session is going to look like is we have Scott from Greystar here. He's going to talk a little bit about the units themselves. I'm sure people are excited to hear about the property, get a little bit more details about the apartments. And after Scott gives a general overview of that, I'm going to get into the application process in general, how it starts, how it works from start to finish. And then we'll drill down a little bit more on the lottery application itself, because that's where we are right now. And we just want to make sure that everybody who's interested gets their lottery application in. So without real further ado, I'm going to just hand it off to Scott, who's on the line right now. And hopefully, I know, and Dave Cashman's with me. He's from SCV Housing as well. And Dave, I'm going to need you to confirm for us if you can hear Scott talk over the conference line, because we have the speaker set up here. So hold on here.
Can you hear me? Is this good enough right now?
Scott, I have you right now. I just want to see if Yeah, start talking and we can get confirmation
All
if you
right.
can be heard.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate that introduction. Miscela is a tallest apartment building in Somerville. It is a 24-story building. We are currently constructed up to floors 16. We expect the entire building to be released by October 15th. That will include items such as a fitness center, a speakeasy, a spin studio, an outdoor swimming pool, grills. We have an outdoor pergola. We have a courtyard with hammocks and couches. We have work from home studios, work from home offices, work from home pods. We have a 24th story sky deck that looks over the Boston sky line, which is going to be extremely special. That will be opening up in October. The apartments are spectacular, super. They come with full of a stove, refrigerator, a washer, dryer. Some of them have islands. We have storage. We have car parking. They've thought of almost everything.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Scott, these the affordable units are the exact same finishes, right, as what your market rate units are?
They're identical. They are identical.
So they're identical units. They have the same exact amenities. The people that get into one of these units through this program are essentially going to be leasing what is a market rate unit, just at a greatly reduced rent. The Like Scott said, the most of the buildings will be leased up by mid-October. This process is going to take a little longer than that. I can talk about the timeline after that, but anybody on the call, anybody that's watching this, do you have any questions about the units themselves? As Scott mentioned, parking is not included with the affordable units, but it's a greatly reduced parking fee of $75 a month. That's important to note. That's $75 a month per space. And like Scott said, the units have stainless steel appliances, quartz countertops, in-unit washer and dryer, and utilities are not included, except for, let's see here. Where is that here? I thought we had
gas is included in the tower.
There you go. Right. So
there's a differential.
Right. But in general, so tenants are paying their own electricity, water, and sewer. And in some of the units, which it'll be clear when you're reserving units, which unit has gas included and which don't. The units that have gas included actually have a slightly higher rent than the units that don't. We have a question here. Are the wheelchair accessible units fully accessible to someone using a wheelchair? Lower cabinets, roll and shower. So Scott, you can speak to that, but I believe the wheelchair accessible units are fully group 2 accessible.
Yes, and they are fully accessible able. So what we can do is they don't come with items such as like grab bars. That would be something that we could do when the person is picked. Everyone has different standards or heights or requirements, so things along those lines can be done after. But yes, the bathrooms are fixed out, the kitchens are fixed out, so everything is ADA compliant.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. When someone gets picked for the lottery, I thought I read somewhere that the person could have first pick on the unit that fits their criteria. Is that true? Okay, we'll get into that in a minute. That's a good question. So right now, we just kind of want to address, and we can get back if people don't have any other questions about the units themselves, but let's try to just stick to questions about the building itself and the finishes and everything. And again, if there aren't that many questions on that, we can just move on. Is there an additional cost for the amenities? That is a good question. Sky, you can answer that.
Oh,
That's a quick answer. The answer is no. So
again.
so all the Sky Lounge, the open air terrace with using the pool, that's all included with the rent that you pay. So there is no additional
Correct.
fees. Same with the gym, no fee to use the gym or the spin room or any of the lounges. So
Yep.
thank you for that question. Are there any other questions? What are the pet policies? So Scott, can you describe what the pet policies are?
Well, certainly. So we accept animals. We accept dogs and cats. There are a few breed restrictions, which we can certainly talk about, like your normal pit bulls and Rotties, depending on if they are unit service or emotional support animals. Those we do accept. But I believe there are I believe 8 different kinds of animal that is prohibited, and I can give you a copy of our pet policy.
Okay. So if you want, and Scott, if you could send that to us, and anybody that is on the call, if you have questions after the call, you can email us at info@scbhousing.com. That's info@scbhousing.com. And again, I'm just going to put this up one more time. This is the details on language assistance in case anybody does need this language assistance. But everything, all these details, the info packets, the application can all be found at our website right here. And everybody also, you can also, if you email Miscela@scbhousing.com, you'll be sent immediately a reply with the link to the online application. And in that online application, you'll find other links to, you'll see a copy of the ad, you'll see a copy, a PDF link to the info packet and everything else. So really everything is in that online application. Are there any other questions right now about the development itself before we get into the application process here? And again, we can get back to that. If at any point you have questions on anything now, just shoot them out. So without further ado, let's go through the application process. And I can talk, well, I'll even talk a little bit about the units too, because just so there are 16 units that are 50% area median income, and there are 15 units at 80% area median income. That means there's 16 units where the rents are established at a level that's deemed to be affordable to somebody who's in that income bracket that's making close to 50% of area median income. And then those 15 units are priced at what's called the high home rents, which are to be affordable to people that are close to 80% of area median income. So you can see all that information on the ad that was posted, or the email blast that went out, which has the income limits and also has the rents for those different units. Real quick, we could see the studio units are about $1,002 a month for the 50% AMI units. And again, 50% AMI is for it's a household, a one-person household that makes $47,000 or less. A two-person household makes $53,700 or less. A three-person household makes $60,400 or less. So on and so forth. That's all in the ad. It's in the info packet. It's on the application. But these are the 50% area median income numbers right here. And then similarly, there's 80% units too, and those are those income brackets here. The 80% units are a little bit more expensive. The studio, whereas the 50% starts at is $1,002 to $1,021 because there's again, different utility. One unit has utilities included, the other doesn't. For the studio 80% AMI units, those rents are $1,336 to $1,355. And again, I don't want to just throw numbers out because it'll all of those are in the printed out information. That's, again, you can get us by emailing Miscela at scvhousing.com, or by going to going to the website highlighted in yellow here. You can see all that information there. I think so. The whole idea is to apply for these units, and this is the way that the process works. Step one is to get a lottery application, and you can get a lottery application by, again, emailing Miscela at scvhousing.com. You'll get a link immediately back, which is a jot form link, which gives you the online application, which is now available. That is now live. It also has in that link if a PDF of a paper application, if you want to print out the paper application, and you can print it out and mail it in to the address that's on the front of the paper application. You can also drop that off at the Montage leasing office in Somerville. You can scan it and email it into us. Again, all those directions are on the paper application. But the great thing is the online application's live. You just have to complete all your information in that form and submit it, and we'll get it, and we'll process that application within probably 4 to 5 days. We're going to be receiving hundreds of applications a day for this, so we ask that you have a little bit of patience when submitting the application, and we'll talk about what that is and the details in the online application. I just want to get from the overview of this process from start to finish real quickly, although we do have a couple questions here. Well, I see that Dave, or SEV Housing, here is answering. Says, if entered, I was looking for a 1-bedroom. Will I only be eligible for that, or would I be able to fall into a studio category if all the 1-bedrooms get taken? That's a great question, Enzo. In the lottery application, you'll see that you can apply for the various unit sizes: studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom. You can apply for all of them, and it doesn't impact where you're going to end up on a waiting list for other units. So if you're interested in a studio or a 1-bedroom unit, check off both boxes. We encourage you to do so, and you'll be on both waiting lists. It's important to note, when you apply for the lottery, you are not specifically applying for a 50% AMI unit or an 80% AMI unit. The waiting list that you will be put on is based on the information you disclose in your lottery application. So we, based on the income you earn, or your household's projected to earn over the next 12 months, that will determine which waiting list you're on. You can only be on waiting lists for 50% AMI units or 80% AMI units. So, for example, as I mentioned before, and I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but if you are applying for a 1-bedroom unit and you're a 1-person household, you can see in the information that the income limit for a 50% AMI unit is $47,000 a year. A household who applies, who makes $46,000 a year, they're a 1-person household, and they check off that they want to be a studio in a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom unit. If they make $46,000 a year, they'll be on the waiting list for the 50% AMI units. Now, I should add, if they're a 1-person household, in this program, you have to have as many household members as there are bedrooms in the unit, unless you have a reasonable accommodation or medical need for a larger unit. But in general, if you're a 1-person household, you can apply for a studio, a 1-bedroom, and a 2-bedroom unit. But if you don't have a medical need for a 2-bedroom unit, you will not be put on the waiting list for a 2-bedroom unit, but you will be put on the waiting list for the studio unit and the 1-bedroom unit. In this case, a household at $46,000 would be on the studio and the 1-bedroom waiting list, because, again, the income limit for a 1-person household at 50% AMI is $47,000. Now, if another household applies, they don't make $46,000, they make $48,000 and they apply for a 1-bedroom and a studio unit, that household will be on the 1-bedroom and the 2-bed, or the 1-bedroom and the studio 80% AMI unit, because they're above the threshold for the 50% AMI units, which is $47,000. So they don't check off a box that says they want a 50% unit or an 80% unit. That will be done by us, by SCV Housing, when we review your application. So we have somebody that said, if I already submitted a 1-bedroom, how do I go back in to make additional adjustments? You'll just want to email Miscela at scbhousing.com and just note that you made a mistake and that you want to also apply for the studio unit, and we can make that change. So just email Miscela, Miscela at scbhousing.com. Note that you want to add a studio unit to your application, and we can make the change on our end. So again, step 1, lottery application. You have the links online, complete that, submit it, and within about a week, you'll get a notice from us. The notice will say you're eligible for the lottery. If you're ineligible for any reason, and I'll talk about that later, you'll get a notice explaining why you're ineligible, and you can always contact us to make any corrections if you made a mistake on your application. A couple weeks after if the households who get a lottery eligibility notice, a couple weeks later, they'll get their application number for the lottery. You don't get your application right away, number right away. You'll get it after a little bit, just because we send those out in big batches. Your application number is just a number to keep you anonymous for when we do the lottery drawing. So the 342nd person who completes their lottery application with us and is eligible, they'll have application A.342. All it means is that they are applicant A.342. Similarly, the household who's the 777th person to complete their lottery application, when they get their application number, they'll get A.777. That's the application number, and that's just so on the night that we run the lottery, when we're drawing names out of the bingo wheel that the city of Somerville lends us, we're just calling out A.777, as opposed to calling out somebody's specific name, as opposed to saying John Smith or Abby Jones. We're just calling out the application numbers. And so when you get the application number and the notice that you get, we'll make it very clear that all it is a number to keep you anonymous. When the night of the lottery comes along, we break up the lottery drawings by the people who are qualified and eligible for each waiting list. So after we do the initial lottery screening, and again, I'll go back to what the screening entails, we actually do a drawing, or we do 3 separate drawings for each waiting list. So in this lottery, households who do not yet have a Section 8 voucher, but who have applied for the Section 8 program and are on a waiting list, either through the Somerville Housing Authority or the centralized Section 8 waiting list, they have the top priority for these units. And again, that question is asked on the lottery application. It's asked on the online form. They're both the same thing. But so when it comes time to do these drawings, again, there's 3 separate drawings for every single waiting list. You'll see this on page 13 of the information packet, which has all the various waiting lists and how all the different drawings are done. So the night of the lottery, which you'll get a link when you're eligible for the lottery, it'll be done on YouTube. You'll be given that information when the time comes. But the night of the lottery, we put everybody who is eligible for a studio 50% AMI unit who is on a waiting list for a Section 8, and we put them in the bingo wheel. Now, there might be 25 people who have that priority, and we spin up the bingo wheel, and we draw all 25 names out, and those 25 people occupy the top 25 positions for that studio 50% waiting list. Then we'll do the next drawing. The next tier of households in this lottery who have the next order of priority are households who live or work full-time in Somerville. And I'll talk about those definitions in a minute. But all the households who qualify for 50% AMI studio unit who live or work full-time in Somerville, let's say there's 40 households who qualify for that tier. All 40 of those application numbers, and again, they're not going to be names, they're just going to be A.XXX, or it might be XXXX, it'll be 4 digits because we'll probably have a few thousand people in this lottery. But all 40 of those people will go into the bingo wheel, get churned around, and we'll draw all 40 names out. Now, as I said before, the first drawing in this example had 25 people in it. So that means the first person drawn in this second drawing, which is for people who live or work full-time in Somerville, will be given position 26 on the waiting list. Because the people who had first priority, who were on the waiting list or who are applied for Section 8 vouchers and didn't receive them and they're waiting, they'll occupy the top 25 positions. And then the next drawing we do will be to determine the 26th position and the 27th and the 28th and the 29th and so on until the 40 people that are in that drawing are added to that 50% AMI waiting list. And then finally, we'll do a drawing for all the households who didn't qualify for either priority. And there could be 200 people in that drawing. And we'll do the bingo wheel and spin it all up and draw out all 200 application numbers. And those households will be added behind all the households that were in the first 2 drawings. And in that way, we establish the waiting lists for the studio 50% AMI units. And that is just one waiting list. There are a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 11 total waiting lists that are going to be established through this process. There are, because there's 2 studio 50% units, there's 8 one-bedroom 50% AMI units, there's 3 two-bedroom 50% AMI units, there's 1 4-bedroom 50% AMI unit, then there's 2 studio 80% AMI units, 7 one-bedroom 80% AMI units, 4 two-bedroom 80% AMI units, and 1 3-bedroom 80% AMI units. And then there's some disabled, accessible, and hearing impaired waiting lists. So there's 1 disabled, accessible, and hearing impaired studio 50% AMI unit. And there's the only households that need those features will be on that waiting list who need a disabled, accessible, and or hearing impaired unit will be on that waiting list. There is a waiting list for disabled, accessible, and hearing impaired 1-bedroom 50% AMI. And then there is a waiting list for 1 disabled, accessible, and hearing impaired 2-bedroom 80% AMI waiting list. So these, again, all of the accessible units also have features for the hearing impaired. But that's how the drawings are going to work. And again, I'll go back to how you kind of get into each drawing for each waiting list, and that information will be determined based on what you disclose on the lottery application. After the lottery, we are going to SCB Housing will invite households for full program certification immediately after the lottery. So, for example, as I mentioned before, there are, for example, there are 7 one-bedroom 80% AMI waiting lists. After the lottery will establish a waiting list for those 80% AMI units. There might be 530 people on that waiting list. We will contact the top 7 households on that waiting list, as there are 7 designated 1-bedroom 80% units, and invite them to move forward in completing the full program certification. That is the next step right after the lottery. So we'll contact the top 7 households. Well, they'll be notified that they have 5 calendar days to submit all the required income, asset, and tax documentation to SCB Housing, and we will screen all the information that they give and let them know if they're eligible, if basically all the information that they disclose on their lottery application can be verified by the documentation they submitted. If they fail to submit all the necessary documentation, they'll be given a notice that their application's incomplete and that they have another time, they have another opportunity to resubmit documentation. Households are given uh, 3 incomplete notices before they're dropped entirely, and that's specified in the info packet. So households will be given multiple opportunities to submit their income and asset and tax documentation because, quite frankly, a lot of households don't get everything right the first time, and the city wanted to make sure that people were given multiple opportunities to submit everything. So again, after the lottery, households will need to have their income, asset, and tax documentation ready to submit. Going back, when you're notified that you're eligible for the lottery, we'll send you a prep guide. We call it a documentation gathering prep guide. And in that guide, it will say all the information that you should start gathering. So if you are lucky enough to be high on these waiting lists, or high enough to be invited to move forward immediately after the lottery or soon thereafter, you'll have all of that documentation ready to go, because you don't want this opportunity to pass you by because you failed to get, you didn't have all your bank statements and taxes and everything else in order. So the guide we send you will have an outline of everything that is required. That includes 3 months of pay stubs from your current job. It includes bank statements from every single account. It includes your taxes from the 2 most recent years of taxes. It's a lot of documentation. You have to, if you claim that you're on the Somerville Housing Authority waiting list or the Section 8 centralized waiting list, you have to provide documentation that you are on those waiting lists. For any job that you had last year that was on your taxes that you no longer have, you have to get a verification of terminated employment from that job to prove that you don't currently work there. Social security statements, pension statements, if you receive those. All your self-employment income has to be documented. That will be covered in the guide on how to put together a profit and loss statement, and also because you'll have to provide year-to-date profit and loss records if you're self-employed. Unemployment income, that will have to be submitted. Divorce separation. If you're not fully separated or divorced, you are considered to be still with your partner. So that information, you can apply right now if you're separated, but when it comes time to the certification, you do need to be able to verify that your separation is finalized, your divorce is finalized. The That is a requirement. So all those details will be covered in the guide that we send you. I see that Dave is still answering all the questions on the side, so that's good. Is there how many people do we have on the call right now other than you, Scott? Do we have anybody that's can't see these questions as they're asked?
Nope, I'm good.
Good. Okay.
Brian,
Yeah.
yes, my name's Paul. I apologize. I don't belong to Google, so I can't type in the questions.
That's okay. Do you have any questions right now?
Just two quickies. One, affecting my security and everything. I'm handicapped, but it's mostly just a problem walking. Are the handicaps units all set up for wheelchairs?
They are wheelchair. They are set up for wheelchair, lower cabinets, and everything else. But if if you have a disability that requires special features, you don't need to be able to use 100% of the special features in a unit. So you'd want to have your medical provider provide a statement, but you could say that you are in need of a unit with special features for the mobility impaired.
No, I can stairs are the most thing, and it's just 40 years of walking on rebar and up and down stairs.
Yep.
And then the other one was if I applied down at Clarendon Hill, and I don't remember because it was a couple of months ago. If that was Section 8, I will go and check, and I can go back into the application, which I already submitted, or prefer what you stated previously to email you.
Well, to be clear, that's a totally different program. So we have nothing to do with that property. So if you made a mistake on that application, you'd want to contact.
No, it would be that Section 8, and I just wanted to check because the eligibility of this does not go into effect till September 1st from Clarendon Hill. So if I go down, I'm talking about your application, sir.
Okay.
If I go find out it was Section 8, then I would have to go back and notify you people that I am on. It is a Section 8 application, correct?
Well, the question is right now, do you have a Section 8 voucher?
Right now, no.
Okay. And then are you so for the question on the application where it says, do you have a Section 8 voucher, you would select no, because you don't.
I did.
And then you are on a waiting list, so it sounds like for not at a property. It's good to be clear. It's not are you on a waiting list for a property that has a project-based Section 8 unit? You're with Somerville Housing, then then you would check yes, you are on that waiting list for Somerville Housing.
Pre-waiting.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yep. You would check yes for the are you on the waiting list for the SHA Section 8 program.
Okay, but if is that what it was classified? I've been on 3 waiting lists for a year, and I realized it was Section 8 when you put elderly housing, Somerville housing, which I'm on 3 different buildings.
Yeah, well, if you're the what you want to do is what I'll tell you right now is you would want to contact. I can give you this information here because we have it, but it's where are we here? Hold on here. I'm just looking for prep. What do we got here? So you'd want to contact the Somerville Housing Authority, and I'll give you their phone number, but you want to call it's 617-625-1152. And you'd ask them, if you're unsure what your status on the wait list is, call them because they should tell you. And the question is,
go ahead, Brian. But I go on the computer. I know exactly where I am. It goes up and down every day.
Okay, but that's so you are on the Somerville Housing Authority public housing waiting list.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then check yes for that question.
Then I got to go back. I already submitted the application earlier while I was waiting for you guys to come online.
Okay, so you submitted. So if you got that wrong, you selected no?
Yes, sir.
Yep, just email.
Okay, just email you guys at Miscela.
Yep, Miscela at scbhousing.com.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You got it. Any other questions right now? Let's see. Okay, well, so we were going through this process of after the lottery, when we're contacting the top households and verifying all their claims in the application, which again would be like, are you on the Somerville Housing Authority waiting list, or somebody who claims that they live or work full time in Somerville, which is, and I'll go over that in a moment too. They have to be able to provide that supporting documentation, and if there are claims in the lottery application that can't be verified, then they would lose their position on the waiting list. They would be found ineligible for the opportunity, and then we would just contact the next household on the waiting list and have them move forward in the process. After that process happens, after a household has submitted everything and their income and asset document, the income and assets are verified, their status is verified, we then notify the property manager at Miscela and say, hey, we have somebody who's currently approved. They need to be screened for rent eligibility. The household is given a proceed letter from us, from SEB Housing, which details what the next steps are, which is essentially they have to contact the property manager, who's Greystar, and within 5 calendar days, complete a rental application. That's the stage in the process that kind of everybody's gone through, or anybody who's ever rented a unit, where you complete like a 2-page rental application. You have to give your social security number and a couple and approve to a credit check and a background check and everything else. And that's when Greystar, the property manager, screens you to make sure that you are indeed rental eligible. And that means that you have enough money to afford the rent, that for the unit that you've been designated for on a waiting list, and that you have sufficient credit to be approved based on their standards, their usual standards, and that you also pass their criminal background check. So Greystar will be running the same standard, the same screening that they would use for a market rate applicant coming through and renting one of their market rate units. That's a couple $1,000s more when these affordable units, where they have to make sure that those applicants also make sufficient income to afford a market rate unit. I should note that for questions on that, because I'm not going to drill down too far on that, because that process is a month and a half away, and that's really only for the very, very top households who make it ahead in this process. Because there's 31 units at Miscela, is probably only going to be about 31 people of the thousands who apply that get that far in the process. But if you do have questions on the credit score that you have to have, on your screening criteria, that's important. You can email Miscela, but you'd be emailing Greystar. So it's miscela@greystar.com. That's MISCELA@greystar.com. Or you can also call them. You can call the property 617-718-5050 if you do have any questions on the factors that will be considered at the rental application, which really is the last step. So again, just giving you a quick oversight of what this is step one, lottery application. You're submitting that online, hopefully online. It's the easiest way to do it. But again, you can print it out, complete it by hand, and there's a bunch of directions on the paper application on how to submit it to us or where to drop it off. You submit that. We screen for rental eligibility, which I'll get, for lottery eligibility, which we'll get back to. You're entered into the lottery. You're put on various waiting lists for the units that you applied for, based on your criteria. And we run the lottery, and that whole entire process is just to establish a waiting list. Step two in this process is we invite the top households on those waiting lists to go forward and submit all the income and asset documentation and tax documentation that's required to verify all the claims that are made in the lottery application. Households who complete that step, and again, they'll be given an initial 5 calendar days to submit documentation. And if they're missing anything, they'll get an incomplete notice from us notifying them of what they're missing, and they'll be given 3 more opportunities to submit documentation so that we have everything that we need to make that final determination. That's all step 2. Households who get past step 2 then move forward in step 3. That is the rental screening, the rental application with Greystar. That's where you go to the property. You see the various units for that are available in this program based on the waiting list that you made it through on. So if you made it through on a 1-bedroom, 80% AMI unit waiting list, you'll be shown those units that are available that are designated as 1-bedroom, 80% units. And you'll complete a rental application, and that's where factors such as employment history, credit score, lease history, criminal background, sufficient income, all of those factors are considered. And if you have any questions on those factors, again, like lease history, credit score, criminal background, tenant history, those are questions for Greystar. They're the property manager. I wouldn't get too concerned with them because, again, that's at the very, very end of the process, and only a couple of households are going to, probably 31 households or maybe a few more if a couple people more get screened out, but are going to be moving forward. So I don't want to spend too much time on that part of it, but happy to answer questions that you may have about that before we kind of drill down on the lottery application screening that's going on right now. So are there general questions about that process? Step 1, rental. Step 1, lottery application. Step 2, the top households on waiting lists go through a program certification, also with SEB Housing. And then step 3 is the rental application at the very end, which is when you go through rental application screening and get to reserve a unit and establish when you get to move in. Okay, well, that kind of gets us through that. That's a general overview of the process from now until the final reservations will be made at the very end. So let's go back to the lottery application. The things that we're screening for in the lottery application are so you're going to complete your lottery application and put all the different sources of income that you have, all the different assets that you own, what your household composition is, and we're going to screen your lottery application based on that information. So in your lottery application, you're going to put, your own name as you're completing this. There's a couple optional questions in here about like how you heard about the information and how you define your ethnicity. Those are all optional. And then you're going to go to the household, your household composition. And when you apply on the lottery application, you are putting in every person who would be moving into this unit with you. Now it's important to note, again, if you're legally married, we have to screen you like your spouse is going to be moving in with you. The only way that we can say that you are not going to be moving in with a person who you might currently be going through a separation or divorce with is if you provide a divorce decree at your program certification after the lottery. So if you think your divorce is going to be finalized sometime in the next month or two, you can put that you are, you're fully divorced. But just keep in mind that if that's not finalized by the certification, and you don't put your spouse as part of your household, then you would be deemed ineligible because your household size wouldn't match your current situation. Similarly, if you want to move in with somebody, you want to apply for this opportunity with one of your friends, but you're unrelated and you're not married, or even if you want to apply with your fiance, but you're not married, and you're not currently living together, you're not going to be found eligible for this. You actually have to be currently living with the people that you plan on moving into this unit with. So that is unique to the city of Somerville. They do require that we verify that the people who are listed on the lottery application and the certification that we do after the lottery, that those people currently live together. This isn't something where you can say, hey, there's this great opportunity for a 2-bedroom unit. I'm going to apply with my buddy. He lives somewhere else right now. I live somewhere, and we're going to apply together, because you have to be able to show that you currently live together in order to apply as a joint household. But so you're going to put all the household members in that you are that are going to be living in the unit, and you should be living together already. And if the exception to that is if you're going to be moving in with a relative, because they do allow related people to move in together. Similarly, you have to disclose if who's going to be moving into the unit if they're a full-time student. The city of Somerville didn't create this program for student housing, and they consider basically student housing if the heads of household are both full-time students. A full-time student is defined by the school's registrar, but generally that's a student who's taking a certain amount of credits every semester. So going back, if it's 2 people who currently live together, and they could even be married, but if they're going to school full time, they wouldn't be eligible for this, because this isn't housing that's eligible to or available to people where every head of household is a full-time student. If there's any questions about that, let us know. On the lottery application, you'll note if you need a disabled accessible unit, which has special features. You'll note if you need a unit that has features for the hearing impaired, because again, there are specific units for those. You'll also note if you have a medical need for a unit that is you have a medical need for an extra bedroom, and that's important, because this program, you will not be on a waiting list for units that have more bedrooms than people in your household unless you have a medical need. So households that don't have a medical need, if they're a 2-person household, you can check off that you want a 3-bedroom unit. You will not be put on a waiting list for a 3-bedroom unit because you do not have a medical need for that 3rd bedroom. The city wants to ensure that those larger units only go to households who need all the bedrooms in that unit. So you're going to check off if you need that medical need. Then you'll check off all the different unit sizes that you're interested in. And from there, you'll also note if you're on the Somerville Housing Authority waiting list or the centralized Section 8 waiting list. On the lottery application itself, it says how to check which waiting, if you're on either waiting list. It's really important that you get that right, because you are given priority if you are on either of those waiting lists. Similarly, if you claim you're on one of those waiting lists and you're not, or you weren't at the time of application, then you'll be disqualified from the lottery. So you can't just say that you're on those waiting lists if you're not on the waiting list, because that will impact your eligibility later on. So households on the Somerville Housing Authority waiting list, again, they can call 617-625-1152. And there's also a website that they can check there. That's on the lottery application. It's on the online lottery application too, but that website is sha-web.org/WL-status.ASPX. It is right. Where are we here? Oh, I'll circle it. It's right there on the application, circled. That website. And if you're on the centralized Section 8 waiting list, you can go to gosection8.com, GOSECTION, the number 8.com, to check on that. It's important to note with this lottery application, you don't need to submit any documentation at this time. So that's great. You don't need to worry about sending anything in this with the lottery application other than the lottery application itself and that's why you can do the online application, because there's no attachments or anything that you have to submit. The next question is, do you currently live or work full-time in Somerville? And so that's defined as, if you currently live in Somerville, you know what it means to currently live in Somerville, but you have to live in Somerville as of right now. You can't have lived in Somerville last year. It has to be right now at this moment. And you will later need to provide copies of utility bills or a lease, bank statements, voter registration. There's various ways to prove that later on. You can also, if you work full-time in Somerville, now work full-time in Somerville means that you work, that you are employed by a business in Somerville for at least 32 hours a week. Your pay stubs will need to show those details, or a signed statement from your employer. But working in Somerville is working 32 hours a week in a job in Somerville. If you're an Uber driver and you just happen to get a lot of business in Somerville, that doesn't count. Your place of employment has to have a location that is in Somerville. Let's see. I have a question. There's a question here. I work with someone who has just received the Section 8 voucher from SHA, but is not leased up yet. Are they considered on the waiting list? If they've received the Section 8 voucher, that means they're not on the waiting list. But they should call the SHA Housing Authority just to confirm that, because the Housing Authority will be very familiar with the definition and the priority. But it sounds like they have their voucher and they just haven't used it yet. The priority for households who are on the waiting list is because it's easier to find housing. Not that it's that easy, but it's easier for people who have a voucher to find housing. And therefore, if you have a voucher, you don't get the priority. The city wanted to give priority for people who are on the waiting list and yet haven't been given a voucher, and therefore haven't kind of been given that opportunity to utilize that voucher. So based on that, I would say, no, they're not on the waiting list. They have a voucher, as you noted. So moving on back to the lottery application, living and working full-time in Somerville, you're going to complete that. Home ownership. You can currently own a home and be eligible for the lottery, but if you own a home at certification, which is going to be done in about a month and a half to 2 months from now, maybe 3 months from now, depending on how quickly we move through the waiting list, but you will be ineligible for the property, or for this opportunity. So this home ownership question here, if you currently own a property, you can select yes. It's going to have no impact on your eligibility right now for the lottery. You still will be placed on the waiting list. The issue is a month and a half from now, 2 months from now, if that property isn't sold or you're not off the deed of that property, when we go to certify you, you will be found ineligible and you'll be removed from the waiting list. That's why that question is there, because this opportunity isn't for people who currently own homes. It's for people, if you're currently selling your home or losing your home, that's fine. Or you've lost it through a divorce, that's also fine. But it's just, you can't currently own a home and be certified as eligible for this program. Then there's a question: do you currently receive or have a Section 8 mobile or MRVP voucher, certificate, or something similar? So if you have that now, you should select yes. If you don't have a voucher now, you should select no. Similarly, if you live in a project-based Section 8 unit, meaning that if you move out of that unit, you no longer have the subsidy, you should select no, because you do not have a mobile voucher. A mobile voucher allows you to move and apply that to any, to a variety of units, so long as the rents aren't above a certain threshold that's set by the Somerville Housing Authority. So that is an important question to answer. And then you're completing the income table, which is asking you questions on how much your income is projected over the next 12 months. So it's not based on what you made over the past 12 months. Maybe you were unemployed. Maybe, you only had $10,000 in income last year, but you just started a job where you're earning $3,000 a month. Your income from that job for the next 12 months should be about $36,000 a year, because you should be projected to make $3,000 a month every month going forward. So when you complete the application, you're going to put in the amount for each of these categories that you think you're going to receive over the next 12 months. It's wages from employment, wages from self-employment. And for self-employment, that's actually net income, not gross income. That's the one part of this form where you'd be putting in net income. If you receive alimony or child support, you have to put that in. So the application itself goes through all the various sources of income that you have to disclose. So you're going to complete that as well. Let's see here. Just making a note. Self-employment. So you're going to disclose all of that. And, if you're receiving a bonus, if you receive a Christmas bonus of, $2,000 every single year, well, that is bonus income, and that should be counted. And that's also listed on the application as well. And, you add all those up and you have what your total household income is. And I should note, it's not just for you, it's for everybody over the age of 18 that's in your household. So you're answering these questions not just for yourself, but you're answering all of them based for everybody in the household. So if you have a job where you're making $24,000 a year and somebody else has a job where they're making $20,000 a year, well, the total wages for your household is going to be $44,000 a year. This isn't just for you who's completing this application. That's important to know. Then similarly, you'll complete the questions for all the assets that your household has. And it's everybody in the household, for checking accounts, savings account, Venmo, PayPal, Cash App accounts, CDs, money from the sale. If you're selling a home and you have some equity that you're going to be getting from it in a month from now, and you're going to be getting $20,000 when that home sells, you put that on here. All of that is considered non-retirement assets. So those are all added up. And then there's a section for retirement assets. If you have a 401k, if you have a pension, that's a whole entire separate section. The good news is, for this program, retirement assets don't count toward the asset limit. There is a $250,000 asset limit for non-retirement accounts. So again, if somebody wants to apply and they have $300,000 in a checking account, they're going to be over the asset limit, because households can't have more than $250,000 in non-retirement assets. And a checking account, savings account, those are non-retirement. But a household who might have $10,000 or $20,000 in a checking account and has $300,000 in their 401k, which good for you for having so much money in your 401k, but that $300,000 in the 401k does not count toward the asset limit. So if all their non-retirement assets only total up to $50,000 and the retirement assets total $300,000, well, for the screening for the program, they only have $50,000 and they're under the asset limit of $250,000. And that's all. That's the asset section, and that basically completes the lottery application. So you should be able to complete the lottery application, depending on how well you know your own income and asset situation. And if you should hopefully be completing this with everybody who's going to be living in the unit, so you can supply comprehensive answers for every question. Some people are completing the online application within 10, 15, 20 minutes. I can see right now that we've already received about 70 online applications since it went live. So that was just a little bit ago. And so we're going to review that lottery application. We're going to review all those details, and we're going to apply all the different eligibility criteria on it, some of which I've already gone over. Households who have more than $250,000 in non-retirement assets are not eligible. They'll be sent a denial notice. Households where every household is a full-time student, they'll also be sent a denial notice, because again, this isn't student housing. Um, if a household is a one-person household, they don't have a medical need for a two-bedroom unit, and all they did was apply for a two-bedroom unit, they are going to be sent an ineligible notice because they're not eligible for a two-bedroom unit if they don't have a medical need. They'll be notified, hey, you might want to apply for the studio or one-bedroom unit, but they're not going to be eligible for the two-bedroom. Then also, and then finally, the screening that we're going to be doing is based on the income that the household has. So if households disclose income that is over the income limits for this program, they'll be sent a notice that they're ineligible because they're over income. You'll see based on the ad and all the other material that that the income limit for an 80% AMI unit is $70,750 for a one-person household, and that income limit increases as the household size get larger. It goes all the way up to a six-person household is 1,000. Yeah, 1,000. It's 117,000 and change for an income limit for a six-person household. So if a six-person household applies and they say they have $120,000 in income, they'll get a notice that they're over income. If a six-person household applies and they have less than $117,250, then they're likely going to be eligible for an 80% unit. But similarly, there's also a minimum income threshold that must be met. So in the screening that we do for the 50% units, there is a program minimum where the city said that households need to make at least two times what the gross income is for or what the gross rent is for the unit that for which they're applying. So without getting too complicated, and if anybody's found to be ineligible, they'll be given very clear notice on why they're ineligible. But for all these units, there's an upper tier and a lower tier, and the households have to be above the lower tier to prove that they make sufficient income to be able to afford that unit, and they can't make too much money or they'll be over income for that income tier. And so we'll do the screening based on the information provided and notify the households where they fit in the income tiers. And that's basically it. I mean, that's what the lottery screening is going to be. And again, you'll first get a notice that says you're eligible for the lottery. That won't have the income tiers in it. That will come a couple weeks later. Then you can check to make sure that that you disclose the right amount and you're in the right income tier. So that's the screening that we do at the lottery application, and that's going to be going on for the next month. Again, the turnaround time is going to be about a week. We hope to get to the application sooner, and we'll be notifying households again if they're ineligible. And if you're ineligible or you think you made a mistake on your application, you can just reply to the notice that you get, and you you'll be able to make corrections to your application. So we can cross that bridge again when we come to it. So do people have questions about the lottery application process? I've been rambling on here for about 70 minutes straight. So it's without even taking a breath here. Does anybody have any questions that haven't been answered? I'm looking at the chat right now, and it looks like Dave, aka SCB Housing, is replying to these questions as they come in. So, is there any other question right now? Let's see. Just says say something, but I mean, if not, that's it. I would say if you have any questions at all, if you remember something that you forgot to ask, you can always call us at 617-782-6900. and extension 1 is for rental units, and extension 1 again is for Miscela. Or you can email us at Miscela at scbhousing.com right there. And this again, for anybody coming on late, this is the translation notice that we provided that says where you can find translated materials. Everything can be found here. The highlighted website, and similarly, if you just email Miscela at scbhousing.com, you'll get an automated reply, which has a link to the online application, along with a link to translated materials, these various translated materials here. And then you can always call Somerville to ask them for help as well. But if you have a specific question, you can also email the Miscela at scbhousing.com. You will get an auto reply, but we also are checking that account. We have somebody that's on it every single day, constantly actually, and they'll reply to your inquiry. So that's really it. If there's any other questions right now, please let me know. But that's the end of the info session. This will be available it'll be posted. It'll be on YouTube if you want to watch it. I don't know how you can make it through another 70 minutes of me doing this, but good on you if you do want to watch it. Similarly, there's another info session September 7th, but we're just going to be going over the same stuff. If you have questions for Greystar about the units themselves, I gave that email address already. That one is miscela@greystar.com. It's MISCELA at greystar.com. You can email them. Get somebody here that's saying, I received my reference number. Is this the lottery application number? Good question, Stacy. That is not. That's just a jot form reference number. Your lottery application number you'll receive after you've been determined to be eligible for the lottery. And that will also have all this various confirmation about what income tiers you're in and everything else. Thank you for asking. Anything else? Any other questions?
Brian?
Yep.
Paul here. Just want to thank you guys, you, Scott, and Dave, taking the time and spending your evening.
It's very nice of you to say that, so we appreciate it. This really is a great opportunity. We do a lot of these lotteries. SCB Housing, I mean, I've been doing this for about 18 years. We've done hundreds and hundreds of different lease ups and work on hundreds of properties throughout Massachusetts. So this is our lifeblood. This is what we do. We know how important it is. So it's important work, and we're glad to help.
All righty. Have a good night and stay safe.
You too. You too.
Thank you, you too.
I'll stay on. It seems like there's a couple questions coming in, but I for the most part, I think we're good. Does anybody have any questions that they didn't get around to? Okay, that's it. Well, thank you all for joining. All the info we went over is in the info packet and lottery application. I hope you find the online lottery application easy to submit. Took a lot of work to get that up and going, so hopefully it makes the application process easier for you. And once you submit your application, you should hear back from us within a week. So thank you so much. That's going to be the end of the info session. Have a great night.
Thanks, Brian.
All right. Thanks, everyone.